Hey everyone, well in this video I am going to talk about where my saw journey all started in life for me. Something a little bit different. This is going to tie into my new Saw of the Day series. I got a whole bunch of firewood to cut this winter, so I'm literally going to run a whole bunch of my saws. Every video I post I'm going to try and show a different saw that I have in my collection. Starting with the very first saw that I ever owned, along with the saws that subsequently followed. As I get into the collection, some of the saws are going to be kind of out of order, just whatever I happen to be running or what I feel like running on a certain day. But this video I'm going to show the first three saws that where it all started for me, my first saw, and then the subsequent saws that came after, and well, the significance of the role of what chainsaws have played in my life. They've paid my bills when times were tough, through thick and thin, good and bad. Chainsaws have always been there, always been a part of my life. Like I say, they paid the bills when other things did not, and well, anyways, kept the house warm, the shop heated, and kept many other families warm and in firewood for many years as well. So anyways, we're gonna get on with it here. Well, here we go. This is a saw that started it all for me way back when I was a young teenager. My 1989 Jonsered 630 Super. I bought this saw brand new off the dealer's shelf in 1989. I think I was literally 13 going on 14 years old in the fall of 1989. Decided that I was always an entrepreneurial at heart, even from a kid. I was always cutting grass and painting fences and helping people shingle roofs. And I seen an opportunity to, if I could cut firewood and sell firewood, it was a one-up for me to start making money. And well, I had other goals and ambitions. As a teenager, you want to have the dirt bike and a few of the toys. And then within a couple of years, it morphed into me getting started in my foothold in agriculture and buying my first few heifers and starting my own cattle herd. So anyways, this is the basis of where it all started. I can't say enough good things about this old saw. It is unbelievable the amount of wood that this thing has cut in its lifetime. I did everything from cutting commercial firewood to full-scale logging. Starting in my, I think I was around 19 or 20 years old, and I cut pulpwood for many winters with this thing. Well, as in poplar chipper wood for the OSB mills. This saw dropped and bucked a lot of semi-loads of wood in its lifetime, let me tell you. And yes, it still runs good. When I retired it a little more than 10 years ago, I stopped using this saw for my everyday cutting, and it was replaced with another brand new Jonsered that was still available at the time, which I'll get into here in a few moments. But anyways, at the time of when I decided to stop using this saw full time, I had put it on the bench and did a compression test on it, and it was still pulling 165 on the compression tester. So after all those years and thousands of cords of wood cut, I will honestly say that I have never done a carburetor kit in this saw. I've changed many fuel lines, many fuel filters, several spark plugs of course in its lifetime. Still oils like crazy. I started up here a little while ago. It's been sitting for over a year. I drained the gas out of it, put fresh gas in it, rolled it over 4 or 5 times slowly just to draw the prime up. Within 6 pulls, she fired off and ran without a skip. Perfect. I've never changed the oiler gear in this thing. I've, of course, I believe a couple of clutch drums and dozens of drive sprockets over the years, rim sprockets, but I've never touched the oiler gear. And these were, people complained about them having bad oiler gears on these 630s, and the saws as such, the 200 series Husqvarnas were the same, like the 266s, and all those on that chassis, the 61s, the 162s. The 630 was based off the 162 Husqvarna platform. Same crankcase, same cylinder setup. The Jonsered, though, of course, got the boosted bigger carburetor or the bigger venturi, so that's what made them always a little bit more of a hot rod saw over Husqvarna counterparts. So that was always the difference. They had a little bit bigger, newer series carb in them, and they were given a bit of a boost that way. So anyways, now moving on, what replaced this saw? I was a one saw plan for nearly 20 years. I literally cut and cut and cut. Just little maintenance stuff that I did to it, like I say, just kept it going. Unbelievably reliable, the greatest saw that I've ever owned. And for a first saw, I don't think anybody could have ever asked for a better saw. A little bit heavy, yes, right around the 14-pound mark. Not horrible, but for the power they made, these saws always had great mid-range grunt. Not real high screamers, but they would get up there pretty decent. For what they were, like I say, they cut pretty damn good. So anyways, in and around 2014-13, I started looking at getting a new saw to replace this old girl. Most everybody else had already long since moved on to newer saws, and I was getting kind of laughed at for still running this old saw, but I still produced a lot of wood every year, year in, year out, still always cutting wood. Always did the job because I took good care of it, still do. You can see I keep it clean, and I run it periodically from time to time. Lately, like I say, I haven't run it now for over a year, which is unusual for me because I still like to always pull this old girl out and cut a load of firewood here and there with it a couple times a winter at least. And but it'll be cutting some firewood here coming up on that fire line salvage job here. So I'm going to run it a couple times just to, not just for nostalgia, but also to keep it healthy. And like I say, I have never done a carburetor kit in this saw. That is still the original OEM carburetor with the kit in it, the way it came from the factory. I've never touched it, and it's always started, it's always tuned, it's always held the tune. I've never had air leak issues with this saw. Not saying that it won't, it's getting to be an old saw. Crank seals could give out, carb kit might need doing here at some point, but up until this point, 30 plus years later, it is still the original seals and carb kit in it. So anyways, moving on to what replaced it. In 2014, this saw had been on the market for a couple of years. I'd been watching it. It was a release with the 562s at the time, the Husqvarna's new auto-tune saws. And this is a Jonsered 2260. The European version of this was the 560 XP. Yes, this is a small bar mount saw. As we all know, the 562s had their share of issues, and I can honestly say this saw has never given me an issue. The first 3 or 4 years that I owned this saw, or specifically the first 4 winters that I had this saw, I cut a lot of commercial firewood with it. It did all my felling and limbing, topping, and I still use my old 630 on the landing for doing some bucking along with my dad's 630 Super 2, which I'll show that in an upcoming video at some point. But anyways, a lot of people had issues with these early ones. This one I never did. It still has the original firmware on it. It has never been updated. I've never had it flashed or had it back to a dealer to have the software upgrade done to it. It has the dreaded early generation EL44 or 46 carb. I can honestly say this one never gave me a lick or a stitch of trouble. Again, but there's a caveat to all this. I look after my saws extremely well. I don't beat on them. I don't treat them like shit. And always run good mix oil with fresh gas. And if you're curious to know, when I talk about never doing the carb kits in this saw, I have never run premium gas. All I've ever run is what I get delivered here on the farm. It would be considered standard pump gas, or like an 89 octane. So take it for what you want. Yes, there is some ethanol in the fuel, and I've still not had an issue. I don't use any kind of ethanol shield or anything in any of my saws, and well, there you go. This saw still runs excellent, still cuts. I still pull it out and cut with it from time to time. This one also in the past 2 years has been sitting quite a bit. It's more than paid for itself many times over as well. Like I say, the first few winters after I got this saw, I cut crazy amounts of commercial firewood, so it did a lot of work. Now, about this time when I bought this saw, I decided that I wanted to start getting into the saw collecting and building game. was getting to an age where I realized that if I didn't, I probably never would. There was a lot of saws on the market that I wanted to run at that point, that I never got the chance to own, that I watched other guys come and go over the years with different saws, and I always got to try out, you know, and see what they were all about, and always enjoyed the different, whether it be Husqvarna, Jonsered, Stihl. So that's where my saw collecting journey started. After owning this, I wanted to do a project saw or just start trying out different saws. In my market, everybody hung on to these Jonsereds and their Husqvarnas like a death grip. Nobody would sell you one. But we had a couple of prolific Stihl dealers in the area, and they sold a lot of Stihl saws. So there was a lot of them starting to come up on auction sales and yard sales and stuff like that, where people were passing, their estates were being auctioned off and sold off, and there was a lot of Stihl saws in those estate collections. So that's where my journey started with that. My first Stihl saw that I ever bought was an MS-260. Unfortunately, it turned out that it had serious crankcase issues, whereas somebody had left it on a shop floor, and the concrete had started to eat at the magnesium, and it totally destroyed the crank bearings and the big end on the crankshaft on that saw. So I went looking for parts, and a neighbor of mine just up the road, a long time, I'll say a buddy of mine, we like to antagonize each other. He bugs me, I bug him. He was always a lifelong Stihl guy, and he was always bugging me about I should buy Stihl, blah, 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 and then I'd bug him and tell him he didn't know what a good saw was because he never owned a Jonsered. Anyways, this is where this saw came into the picture. Technically, not the first Stihl, but the second in line. This saw was supposed to be parts to repair that first Stihl. I was looking for a crankcase with a crankshaft. Turns out he had some issues with this saw. He didn't like it. Literally threw it in a scrap pile in his backyard, where it sat upside down. It sat literally for 2 or 3 years out in his back junk pile in his backyard. Like I say, he had rolled it over upside down, and it was sitting there. And he says, give me 20 bucks. I got all the other parts in the shed. He had stripped it all down for whatever reason. The cylinder was still on it, but there was no spark plug in it. Like I say, luckily he had turned it over, so the water never got into the cylinder. But everything else was stripped off the saw, but he did have all the stuff laying in a storage shed. Now, he's a guy that's not well known in the area here for taking very good care of his power equipment. He always buys brand new saws every few years, and he literally just throws them outside on the ground, and that's where they sit summer and winter. So it's all faded in the plastic. The whites on this saw, the white plastic is all kind of a yellowish brown, and the orange top covers are kind of faded, almost pinky white color or whatever. They're no longer orange, they turn kind of a weird color. This one, only the covers survived because, like I say, he had them laying in a shed. But the first year or two that he owned it, it was sitting outside. The issue that started for him is the fuel filter fell off the fuel line, and he kept running it that way, and he sucked a bunch of dirt up into the carburetor, and he plugged the little micro screen in the carburetor, so it wouldn't run anymore. He got frustrated and didn't want to fix it, so he just threw it in the junk pile. I literally, like I say, gave him 20 bucks for the parts for it, and he laughed at me and said, good luck if you can get that saw running. I said, I don't care, I don't want to get it running, I just want the parts from it. When I got it home, I pulled the cylinder off it because I was going to put all the stuff, my top end and everything from the other saw was in good shape, so I was going to drop it on this one. So anyways, when I looked at it, the piston and cylinder were like brand new, and this thing still had all the machining marks right down to the bottom of the piston. Nothing wrong with it, so I decided to start putting it all back together. Within an hour of bringing it home, I had the stupid thing running. Following days, like I say, I went over it to put a new fuel line in it, new fuel filter, new spark plug. When I was putting it together, I pulled the carburetor apart, and this one as well. I have never done a carb kit in it. It still has the original OEM carb with the OEM carb kit, as far as I know, what it came from the factory. I just cleaned the micro screen out in it, like I say, and I had it up and running in no time. I got this saw about a year after I had my 2260. So it actually worked alongside of this saw, and not doing limbing and topping like you would normally think for a small 50cc saw. Instead, I used this saw on the landing, bucking all the wood that this saw was pulling out of the bush. Everything that I dropped and limbed with my 2260, I bucked on the landing with this MS-260. I did a little bit with the old 630, but the bulk of it I did with this old MS260. I wanted to see, to prove a point, that I was going to try and kill this saw as a joke with my neighbor. He was teasing me saying, oh, well, whatchamacallit, that saw is a piece of crap when I had it, and good luck. He had to eat crow after because I had it going, and I was cutting firewood non-stop for literally 2 winters with this saw, and I mean non-stop. Every day, if it wasn't minus 25 or 30, I was out there in minus 18, 20 degrees Celsius. Warm days, cold days, didn't matter. I had customers wanting wood, and this saw literally bucked almost all of it. I ran it and ran it and ran it, and it still runs good to this day. I parked it a few years ago, stopped using it as much. I still run it from time to time, and yes, the next video here, I'm probably going to haul this one out here to the Fireline salvage job, and I will be cutting with this saw. Cut a couple of bucket loads of wood with the tractor there just to put some run time on it. I had it running yesterday, and I fired it up here just off camera a few minutes ago just to see if it would fire back up, and yep, true to its name, these old MS260s, they 2 pulls and they fire right off. They're excellent running old saw. This whole class of saws, the 026s, MS260s, pre-261s. The 261s are good saws, don't get me wrong, but they're heavier and they just don't run the same. I don't know, they're good, but I still prefer these over those. The anti-vibe kind of sucks on these. They're, you know, still the rubber bushing style, not the greatest, but as far as reliability, if you wanted a good hard-running firewood saw for cutting, for the average farmer or homeowner that cuts a lot of firewood every year, you can't go wrong with one of these old MS260s, 026s, any of that generation of these saws. If you want to cut a lot of firewood, that's the saw to have. And a few of the Husqvarnas, of course. I love my my little 300 series and the Jonsered 2100 series, like the 2152s and 53s and Husqvarna 353s and 346s. They were light years ahead as far as ergonomics and anti-vibe. These were on the market at the same time as the 346s, but the 346s, in my opinion, ran circles around these as far as balls to the wall performance and just operator comfort. These little saws pull like a tractor. They have a weird flat power band, but they just are strong runners. They will cut and cut and cut, but they're not overly, I don't know, I'm not overly excited about their power characteristics. Otherwise, don't get me wrong, they make good power, but they're not a 346 XP, they're just not. So anyways, that's my collection of saws, where it all started for me, from there to there, and we added that one in along with it. So sorry if this video is a little bit long and rambling, but anyways, that's kind of the history of where Stu and the Sticks all started with, were saws for me. So there you go, folks. A little bit of back history of where it started for me with chainsaws and my involvement with them, and it's since morphed into now collecting whole series or families of saws, all the different models, and building hot rods out of spare extra ones that I have. And we're going to run a whole bunch here this season through the paces here. Over the course of the winter, like I say, as long as the weather allows, it's not minus 25 out, and the weather's decent. A beautiful day today. We finally had sunshine for the first time in weeks. Warmed up, it's fairly mild out, so great time to do this on the tailgate of the old truck and show you a little bit here of the origins of where it all began for me. So anyways, we're going to take you along here on the journey, and I might even throw in some of my family's logging history and well, maybe some of that stuff, whatever, too. I'll include it in some of the saw talk along the way here. So anyways, hope you enjoy the new series and what's coming up here, and we'll make the best of it. Thanks everybody for stopping by and checking out another one of my videos, and we'll see you all in the next one. Just as a parting shot for all you folks, I'm going to start up all my old saws here and let them idle on the ground here as say goodbye. So again, thanks everybody. 1989 Jonsered 630 Super. 2014 Jonsered 2260. '2006 Stihl MS 260.